Viewers, fighting escalates along the Tigray-Amhara border. Welcome to Africa Frontline. Viewers, fighting has reportedly intensified along the Tigray-Amhara border, particularly around the Raya Kobo area, with heavy weapons and drone strikes reportedly involved. The latest developments raise several important questions. Who initiated the latest confrontation? How far have Tigrayan and Fano forces advanced? What is the Ethiopian military doing in response? And could this fighting open another front along the Tigray-Afar border? Viewers, the latest fighting appears to be connected to a movement of Tigrayan forces from southern Tigray into the North Wollo area of the Amhara region. According to information circulating from the area, a significant number of Tigrayan fighters moved across the regional boundary before the latest clashes began. This is different from earlier reports of similar movements. On this occasion, Tigrayan forces were reportedly operating together with Fano fighters, creating a coordinated force on the ground. The fighting has been concentrated around rural area west of Kobo, extending toward the mountainous terrain between Kobo and the southern Tigray border. Residents in Kobo have reportedly heard sustained gunfire as well as heavier weapons. However, there is still no reliable independent assessment of which side initiated the actual exchange of fire. One possibility is that the Tigrayan Fano force launched an attack against Ethiopian federal positions. Another possibility is that the ENDF detected the movement of the two groups and launched a preemptive operation against them. What appears clearer is that the movement of Tigrayan forces into Amhara territory came before the major fighting. Viewers, has the Tigrayan Fano coalition made major territorial gains? At this stage, there is no clear evidence of major territorial breakthrough. There have been claims of fighting in several locations west of Kobo, but reports that major towns have already fallen have not been firmly established. In particular, there is no confirmed indication that the coalition has captured Kobo itself. This distinction is important. Because Kobo site along a strategically important route, a force controlling Kobo and nearby positions could potentially create a corridor deeper into North Wollo. That is why the Ethiopian military would have a strong incentive to prevent the fighting from moving toward the town. The latest information instead suggests that federal forces remain positioned around the key approaches, while fighting continues in the surrounding rural and mountainous areas. There are also reports of casualties being evacuated from both sides, with ENDF personnel reportedly being moved toward medical facilities in the Amhara area and wounded Tigrayan soldiers reportedly being transported towards southern Tigray. The exact number of casualties remain unclear so far. Viewers, drone activity has also reportedly increased around the battlefield. Multiple strikes have allegedly been carried out during the fighting. The complication is that drone capabilities are no longer exclusive to the Ethiopian federal side. The Ethiopian military has established air capabilities, while Tigrayan forces and Fano-linked formation have also reportedly acquired or obtained access to drones. As a result, claims that a particular side carried out a drone strike should be treated carefully until the evidence becomes clear. The same applies to casualty claims. Both sides have strong incentives to emphasize their opponents' losses and minimize their own. More reliable information may emerge once battlefield footage, independent local accounts, and official statements become available. Viewers, another development. Earlier claims suggested that Ethiopian federal forces were moving equipped away from positions around Zubal and Kobo, potentially creating an opening for Tigrayan and Fano forces. The latest developments do not appear to support the idea of a major ENDF withdrawal from the area. It is possible that some military equipments or units were repositioned, but that does not necessarily mean the federal army abandoned the front. There is also a possibility that reports about a withdrawal were exaggerated or misunderstood. For now, the available information suggests that ENDF remains engaged around the Raya Kobo battlefield and is attempting to prevent a major territorial breakthrough. Viewers, on the other hand, one of the most important questions now is whether the fighting could spread beyond Raya Kobo. The Ethiopian federal government has previously positioned forces and allied formation around the far Tigray frontier. There have also been reports of Tigray Peace Force elements operating in areas north of current battlefield. So far, there is no strong indication that a major new offensive has been launched from the Afar side. That is significant. If the Ethiopian military were to activate the Afar front while fighting continued around Raya Kobo, it could place additional pressure on Tigrayan forces from another direction. But there is another possibility. If ENDF begins losing significant ground around Raya Kobo, it could attempt to create pressure elsewhere in order to force Tigrayan forces to divide their strength. Therefore, developments around Afar, Abala, and northern approaches to Tigray deserve close attention. Viewers, what does this fighting mean? The latest clashes are more significant than an isolated local battle. Over recent weeks, there have been repeated confrontations and military movements involving Ethiopian National Defense Force, Tigray Defense Force, Fano, and other armed formations across northern Ethiopia. Each individual incident may appear limited, but collectively they suggest that the military environment is becoming increasingly dangerous. The current confrontation around Raya Kobo could represent several things: a limited attempt by Tigrayan and Fano forces to test federal defenses, an ENDF effort to stop further movement into Amhara territory, the beginning of a border coordinated campaign, or an escalation that could eventually pull additional fronts into the fighting. At the moment, it is too early to declare that a full-scale war has begun, but the movement of forces across regional boundaries, coordination between armed groups, heavy weapons, and drone strikes are all developments that should be watched very closely. The key questions now are: will TDF and Fano attempt another advance towards Kobo? Can ENDF hold its position around North Wollo? Will the Afar front remain quiet? And most importantly, will this confrontation remain localized or become the opening stage of a much wider conflict across northern Ethiopia? Viewers, we will continue monitoring the situation and bring you confirmed developments as more information becomes available. Thanks for watching Africa Frontline.